Good. All right.
Welcome to Rick's Corner. I got Doug Brignole sitting here with me. We're chit-chatting about a lot of things of the past. Like, this is the fun part of having people come over. We're talking about Dave Graver, we're talking about Bill Pearl, talking about shows.
Vince Gironda.
I mean, this is all the history of bodybuilding, and that's why I do this show, because history is what we are today. If we didn't have this history, we wouldn't be anything today, right?
We can't just talk about the things that were right.
No. If you know about the past, then you know where your future's headed.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Well, and it's all colorful. It's all interesting.
It is interesting.
You're colorful.
Thank you so much. I add color to my beard. I used to bleach this out because it was kind of like a darkish, I don't know what color. I used to make it black when I was doing a lot of TV work as a bad guy. And everybody showed up with a black goatee. And so I started bleaching it. First time I bleached it, looked really weird to me. And so I kept doing it.
You mean white?
White.
Yeah.
Year after year after year. And then one day I went a couple of weeks and I'm looking in the mirror and I said, God, it's still the same color. I guess I don't have to bleach it. It's been 3 or 4 years now. I never had to bleach it since. It came out white and that's the end of it.
Perfect. Same time.
Someone says, let your hair grow, see what it looks like. I said, I don't have hair. I don't know where it is. There's a few feathers up there.
You might get a few like in the back.
Yeah, maybe like a white ponytail or some shit.
I'm heading in that direction.
Yeah, well, this is the best.
Yeah.
You said you wanted to talk about balance.
Yeah, there's a huge trend, in these gyms and the whole fitness industry. A lot of people standing on one leg, standing on Bosu balls, standing on sponges, and look, there's going to be people that defend this.
Of course.
And there's going to be people that defend it, in my opinion, theoretically.
Right.
What I would say is this. Look, if you stand on one leg on a sponge, yes, you might be strengthening the muscles on the bottom of your feet. But when someone trips or they fell because too much of their upper body weight went over their feet. I don't care how strong your feet are. If you don't know how to lift that leg and plant it somewhere else, you're going to fall.
Prime example. I have a pen. Let's put a weight on top of that pen. It's going to go forward.
Right.
If it's lighter and heavier on the bottom, it's going to stand up. Same thing with the human body.
But it isn't only a matter of weight. It's a matter of once you're off balance, muscles on your feet aren't going to help. You need a certain amount of athleticism and coordination. You need to know how to lift that leg and reposition it.
Right.
That's what's going to save you.
Two things. Older people fall a lot.
Right.
They lose their balance.
Right.
I'm finding as I get older, I lose my balance.
Right.
I've torn both quads, my knees are unstable, and my balance is off when I first stand up. Yeah. I can't feel my knees underneath me until I start moving.
Right.
Is there a way to correct that? Is there an exercise that you can correct those tendons to strengthen them and your feet so you don't get that wobbly effect?
Well, look, what I always recommend is lateral movement, lateral shimmying, right? So with my clients, I'll throw a ball over here. They shimmy to the left. They catch the ball. They shimmy to the right. I throw the ball. They go back and forth. It's that lateral movement that we lose. We walk and we do things forward and backward. We don't do things side to side. So as you get older, my recommendation is dance.
Yeah.
Or just shift to the left, shift to the right, shift to the left, shift to the right.
Okay.
That's the kind of stuff that your brain forgets to do.
Right.
And not only that, but the muscles that pull the legs up, the hip flexors get weak as you get older. So just lifting the knees up, improves your ability to do that, to lift and replant.
I do jackknife leg raises.
Right, same
and
thing.
the knees to the chest, so that's actually working those back and forth.
Right.
People see me say, what are you sitting on the bench just rocking back and forth? No, actually the jackknives really work my abs.
Yeah.
Without putting any stress on my upper abs and making it thicker. But the balance thing's been kind of tough, and I can't squat because my right knee is so bad.
Right.
So there's a leg press in the gym that you can lie flat and you can put a selector and you bring the thing all the way back and you can lay back, and I put my heels up, and it's basically the squatting position, but you're lying flat.
Yeah.
And I did it the other day, and it felt like squats. And then I started to feel the strength around my knees and my tendons start to work.
Yeah. Well, and you can also, when you got something like that, and it's not balance related, you can do 60% with the strong leg and 40 with the right.
Right.
Or 70-30 until you finally end up catching up.
Right.
But you can't do that if you're doing a regular squat because you fall over.
Exactly. But the leg press doesn't get me like that.
Right.
The leg press does not do what I want. I don't know how many guys do leg press out there. Leg press, I see guys with 1,000 pounds on there. Okay, you're pushing the weight up.
Yeah.
But the development in the quad doesn't come out of the leg press like it should.
Right.
I don't know why. It just doesn't.
Yeah.
Am I right or wrong?
No, you're right. You need more than that. I mean, quad strength is only part of the equation.
Right.
Hip flexor strength, again, and the ability to get your brain to understand that if you're leaning too far to the right and you aren't lifting that leg over, you're going to fall. No matter how strong the bottoms of your feet are from having stood on one leg.
So what's the best thing for balance? Just hit, like you said, side to side.
Shimmy to the right, shimmy to the left, and take wider steps, because what typically happens is you're in a room, something's gotten next to your foot, let's say your right foot, right? And when you go to move, your right foot can't slide over because it got stuck. You need to lift it up and over, right? So that's why if you practice lifting up and over, that'll be automatic. When you start to fall to the right, up and over. Start to the up and over.
This happens to me, but you saw my two dogs. They're always under my feet.
I love your dogs.
And a cat first thing in the morning, and I'm tripping over them. I'm almost falling on my butt just walking around the house because they're right next to me all the time.
You know, dancing is truly one of the best ways to improve your coordination. You know, kids have good balance, not because they stand on one leg, because they're active. Yeah. That's why they have good balance.
Funny because my son got married about a year and a half ago, and they had music, and I haven't danced in years, and I didn't know if I even could, and I told my girlfriend I'll dance. I never danced, even with my wife when I was married, but I wanted to be a good sport and go out and dance. So I started moving around, and I did one of these things. Swear to God, I threw my hip out. I threw something out in my sacrum, and my hip just popped, and I couldn't put my leg down. I mean, I had no feeling. I thought I was going to fall over. My balance was off. Yeah. And I must have looked like an idiot. She said, well, just go sit down. I didn't tell anybody. But I was in a lot of pain.
And you have such an athletic background. It's so heartbreaking when here you are, this champion.
I was doing my fancy stuff after, you know. I thought, man, this is going to be cool.
let me tell you another example of this thing that I call ridiculous, you know, in terms of this core training. I'll give you a little scenario. You've got a guy in the gym who is a little bit self-conscious. He's gotten out of shape. He hasn't been to the gym in a long time. He knows one thing. He knows the flat dumbbell press. So he's over there doing them with a pair of 20-pound dumbbells, maybe 30-pound dumbbells. He's working his chest. Okay, it's not full body, but he's working other things. But this is good. A trainer comes over there, and of course a trainer is probably soliciting work, right? He says, can I show you a better way to do that? Well, this guy doesn't know what better is. He assumes the trainer knows better. He goes, sure. Trainer brings him over to the ball, puts him on the ball. He's got both feet on the ground and the dumbbells. He goes, well, it's a little bouncy and a little jiggly, but I can still do it. He goes, that's not what I want you to do. I want you to put one foot on the ground and the other foot straight out in front. Now do it. So now, of course, he's a bicycle instead of a tricycle, right? So he realizes that it's more precarious, but as long as he keeps equal distance between the two dumbbells, just like, you know, the tightrope walker that's got the long stick, he'll be okay. What happens then? The trainer says, no, I don't want you to do it that way. I want you to bring one down first,
I've seen this.
And then the other one, and he falls off.
Yeah.
It's inevitable, right? He feels silly. The trainer looks at him like, gotcha, right? You need work. You need my help, right?
I see.
And the guy goes, I guess I do. Okay, so he says, okay, get back on the ball. First thing we're going to do is lighten the load a little bit. He gives him a pair of 10-pound dumbbells. Okay, right away, it's obvious. He's not stimulating his chest muscles as much, right?
Right.
So, but he still realizes that even with the 10-pound dumbbell, if he brings it all the way wide, he's going to fall off. So he brings it in closer, which means he's shortening the lever, which means he's further reducing the load to the chest, right? So now if he's smart enough, he'll say, okay, clearly I'm not doing what I was doing with my chest before. What's the trade-off? The guy says core. As you struggle to keep from falling to the right, all your ab muscles are pulling you toward the center.
Right.
And he thinks he's so clever. I guarantee you, if he did that exercise for a year, after 1 year, he wouldn't look any different and he wouldn't feel any different.
Not at all.
What he should have done is gone back to the bench with his 20-pound dumbbells and then stood on a flat, stable surface with a pulley and done his core work.
Sure, you're working resistance.
And now you see, as long as you're off balance, you can't use very much on the rotation.
Right.
But if you're stable, you can do more on the rotation.
Yeah,
he would have gotten better with two separate exercises than he's doing with this.
You got your legs planted.
And this is a typical scenario. People don't ask, yes, you're helping me with, quote, balance. How much realistically can I expect that improvement to be? Realistically, and what's the trade-off? What am I losing?
Where does all this core work come from? I never heard about this back in the days.
Well, it's coming from an industry. I hate to make enemies about this, but you know, it's coming from an industry that is multi-billion dollars, and they have to keep introducing new stuff. You know, and people buy into it. Why do they buy into it? Because the magazines have to have something to sell, something new every month. The trainers have to feel like they've got this big repertoire, a variety of exercises. Look, not everything that's new is good.
That's right. I mean, you throw the ball. You go outside and throw the ball. I'm in the gym to work out the weights. I saw a little video with Arnold, and he says, you're there to train. Texting's not training.
Oh, I saw that.
And it's true. I see a girl today, she had a headset on, she's doing extra, she's texting between, this one's over here texting. Use the damn weights and go. I put my phone in the cubby, I don't touch it the whole workout. You're there to train. That's what you're there to do.
I thought of this the other day. I thought this is such an interesting analogy. Imagine that there's this weight room right here, full of people doing stuff. Now, you know as well as I do that most of the people that are in the gym today are doing nonsense things.
Nonsense.
Right? Imagine they're all musicians. Imagine they're all violinists.
Yeah.
Right? They all have a violin, and they're all doing nonsense.
Yeah.
And all you're hearing is, and one guy over there is making music. Yeah. One guy over there is making, and everybody else just, see, that's the problem is, when you're dealing with music, you know whether you are or are not making music.
Yeah.
In fitness, you don't. There's no audible sound. There's no visual sign that you're doing something that's unproductive. You just do what you were told to do, what you saw in a magazine, and no one tells you you're wasting your time. But most exercises that we see in the gym today are either not being done right or they're nonsense exercises.
Oh, they do it so wrong. I mean, I see the guys doing the presses we used to do, doing this and then pressing this and this. You got to rotate.
You know this thing like this where you do the side ladder with the arm bent? Okay, let me explain to you what that is. If you do a 10-pound side raise like this, you have a full arm to magnify that 10 pounds.
Right.
If you bend your arm in half, now you have half the arm length,
right,
which means you have half the magnification.
Okay.
So what if you're using 15 pounds? This isn't working any harder.
I understand that. You're talking about dumbbells.
Than the side raise.
But what about the machine?
Oh, that machine is fine because it's pressing right here.
Tell you about the machine.
Oh, wait, let me just finish this one thought.
Okay.
So if you're doing this, not only is this not working any harder because you lessen the lever length,
yes,
now you've created a lever that's pulling you down here
right,
and forcing you to strain your external rotator.
I got that.
Do that separately. I'm not saying you shouldn't work your external rotator. Don't do it when you're working side deltoid.
Yeah, I use the machine. Well, I'll do some seated presses, which I know I'm not supposed to press anymore because it's bad on my shoulder joints. But in my mind, I got to do them. So
I know.
So then I'll do some reverse on the pec deck for my rear delts, and
right,
I focus so I know I'm getting what I want. Then I'll go to the machine for the lateral movements. Now, if they have handles and you can go like this, I don't feel that. So what I do is I drop my arms down to my side, and I act, in my mind, I've got two dumbbells.
Yes, that's exactly what I would say to do. Forget that handle.
Forget the handle.
All you care about is what's pressing on your arm right here.
And then I come up with my arm as if I got two dumbbells.
Just do them straight arm. I agree 100%.
Works unbelievable.
Yeah.
And then I'll go over and do the dumbbells.
Yeah, because as long as you're holding on to that thing, there's a temptation to actually use it.
Right.
You don't want to use it. You just want to push with the upper arm.
Now, they have a tricep machine you sit in and you hold the handles and go like this, right?
Yeah.
I don't like that either. So I take the handles out of the way and I lean into it and I grip it across the metal bar and lean down and I bring it back to my forehead and I push it out like this way, and then I'll stand and bring it this way. It's like doing, well, I don't call them skull crushers, they do today, but I used to call tricep extension.
Yeah, right.
Bar. It's the same principle as using a bar.
It's fine.
I don't have to
it works just fine.
It works fine.
Yeah. So much of this has to do with the direction of resistance.
Yeah.
Right? So, it's one thing to do the movement right, but if the resistance isn't coming from the right place, then it could be a complete waste of time. So I'll give you an example. This internal external rotation thing that we do?
Yeah, we talked about that.
Well, the first mistake that's typically made is we assume that when the arm is straight, it is halfway between the in and the out. That's not true. There's much more inward movement than there is outward movement.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
You can only go so far.
You can go all the way in here, and that's fine.
Yeah.
But you can only, if I hold this arm in as tight as possible, you can only go to about there. You can't go as out as you can in.
Yeah.
That's the first mistake. People try to go like not far in enough and too far out.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Then they have you using an elastic band or a cable that's coming from over there, or they have you on your side.
Mm-hmm.
Well, guess what? What you want is resistance coming from slightly behind you. You'd be better off lying on your back and doing this than you would be on your side.
Makes sense.
Because the direction of resistance has to give you more resistance at the beginning and less at the end.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And when you're doing this, you get nothing at the beginning and too much at the end.
Mm-hmm.
It's all about, as we talked about before, pulling toward the origin of the muscle and making sure the resistance is coming from the right place.
You were talking about equipment in the gym. There's a lot of equipment in the gym. There's a lot of things you can go on and you can substitute for weights, and I do it as well. Even the hammer machine is like this. I can sit down and in my mind, I'm doing dumbbells.
Right.
So I get the feeling of dumbbells. But I was looking at some picture that I found on the internet. It was Muscle Beach in the 50s when they were outside on the sand and the benches were made out of wood.
Yeah.
Everything was wood benches, and they were hard. It's like using a barbecue table, And these guys had the best bodies using primitive weights on wood benches. Yeah.
Now, by the way, that doesn't mean that those benches were better, but it does mean that what's available today isn't necessarily better.
That's right. It means that they did what they made work with what they had.
Right.
I worked at a YMCA in Bakersfield. It was the only gym that they had at the time. And it was upstairs, and the weights were all over the floor. Half of them were broken. They had a squat bar. They had a bench press bar that was bent. The tricep machine that came down was on a spindle. And so when you would, I'm not tricep, actually it was tricep, and it would go this way and this way and this way and move as you're pulling it. It wasn't in a rack of any sort, and the cables were frayed, and so it snapped one day and hit me here and cut me all the way down. Oh. And then the calf machine was the same thing. You'd go up and down, and this weights are going this way and hitting in the shins.
I remember Bill Pearl's gym had like a calf machine that had a chain.
Exactly.
With a hanging weight.
With hanging weights. But through all of that nonsense, I made gains.
Right.
It made it happen.
Right.
And I benched 300 on that stupid little bar. And so when I got to a good gym with an Olympic bar, I went up 350 pounds, so 350 because I used a good bar. Right. Made a huge difference. I was so wanting to get to a gym that had real weights. Yeah. Not the YMCA. I just didn't have the money to get into
I started the YMCA. Have you ever done that exercise where It's a preacher curl machine, but you get on that side of it and you get on the other direction, you do your triceps on what would be a curl machine. Bill Pearl had a preacher curl bench. And you got in there normally and you did your biceps on it, but if you got on the other side facing this direction on your knees, you can take that same bar, put your elbow right along the same pivot of the machine, and you can go in the other direction and do your triceps.
You know, I'm thinking about that because I trained at Pearl's in Inglewood, and I remember working arms in there, doing something with triceps, that I had the best pump in my life in that gym.
Yeah.
Maybe because I was young, I don't know.
Or maybe it was the air in that room.
Maybe. It was something.
Something in the water.
Something in that gym. It was like an old school gym, Bill Pearl's. I mean, it was old school.
Yeah, right.
And I mean, this guy was phenomenal. He's that's when I saw him as a kid. I said, that's the kind of body I want.
Yeah.
And he and Harry and those guys trained early.
Well, yeah, so much of his. I mean, we look at these pictures now, these black and whites.
Yeah.
We see Bill Pearl, and we see the other guys that were right next to him, and you can really see the genetic difference. I mean, Bill Pearl had that sort of a fire plug build. He had the big wrists, the big hands. He couldn't build any other. He could never be a Zane. Right. He could never be an Arnold. I mean, he could never be a Leva. He was Bill Pearl. He had the massive triceps. And because he had kind of a large skull, he could weigh 240 pounds and not make his head look like a pea. He basically grew to the size of his head.
He had an awesome body.
Yeah.
But his training, and I just want to bring it up for a minute because you were there too, it was pretty basic.
Yeah.
There was nothing elaborate about the training.
Yeah, right.
He broke down his body parts like we do, and didn't have any fancy equipment. He just trained hard and ate good.
Yeah. Well, and look at, today we look at the pros. I saw a picture recently of I forget who it was, one of the recent Mr. Olympias, right next to Arnold, and he's saying, "Boy, Arnold was prettier.
Yeah.
Just more beautiful lines, more beautiful taper. There was more of a hardness. There was more of a separation. Right now, it's almost like there's a lot of vascularity, but not a lot of muscle striation.
No.
There's something going on that's kind of weird. I mean, I'm not going to say what it's all about so much as to say aesthetically speaking.
Yeah.
It's not as pretty a look.
I saw pictures of Zane today.
Yeah.
He still looks good.
Yeah.
He still looks good. And it's still that small waist, the broad shoulders, and that's what it was back then. Arnold had a very small waist.
I will say one thing, though, about a recent picture I saw of Zane.
Yeah.
And that is, and it might be the same picture we were looking at, he still has the same magnificent triceps.
Yes.
But he doesn't have the same pecs.
No, they're flat.
They're flat. And what I've noticed is that that's one of the first things that bodybuilders lose as we get older, is the pecs. And it occurred to me.
Why is that?
Because I'm going to tell you, and this is my opinion, all right? It's because the traditional way of training pecs is not the best way of training pecs. And we can get away with it when we're young, but we can't get away with it when we're older. My pecs are growing better now than they did when I was younger.
Why?
Because I'm doing different exercises.
Like?
I'm not doing any inclines.
Okay.
I'm doing all declines.
Yeah.
I'm not doing any dips. I'm not doing anything where I end up here. Everything has to end in front. You have to squeeze, right? You can't squeeze your pecs if you're here.
No, you got to squeeze in front.
Right. So, by the way, and I do an exercise. It's what I call a simulated dip on pulleys, where you lean slightly forward and you're doing in the same direction of movement, but you're wider here than dipping bars would be,
right.
And then you're narrower here than dipping bars would be. It's the same movement, but you're angled like this rather than like this, so it's much less friend altitude. You're not going back; you're going out. So you're traveling parallel to the pectoral fibers.
I like that.
It's a much better way to go. So I'm convinced that what used to work for triceps for young guys works for them when they're older.
Right.
But what works for pecs when they're younger doesn't work for pecs when they're older.
Interesting. I had a good friend, Reg Lewis. You know Reg Lewis?
Yes.
Well, he's still around. He's probably 80 now.
I'll be darned.
I did sextet with him and some other. He did Hercules movies and all that. He had a magnificent body. And Reg worked out in his apartment building. He said, I never went to a gym.
Yeah.
I went to my apartment. I had everything there, and I had cables. He didn't do any heavy weights, and he did the things with the pecs.
Yeah, right.
And he got a hell of a body just from working out in his apartment with the cables.
Yeah.
And I'm going to flash a picture so you guys can see. He didn't have to go and go heavy on everything.
Yeah.
He did it. It just worked.
Yeah.
So.
And by the way, back in those days, they used to work out 6 days straight.
Yeah.
1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, rest Sunday.
That's what I do now.
I'm thinking to myself, how many sets did you do? I mean, those guys were doing 20 sets of body parts.
Yes, that's what I did.
How the hell do you recover from that?
I did 20, 25 sets of body part. I worked 6 days. Chest and back on Monday, shoulders and arms on Tuesday, legs on Wednesday, and then Thursday, Friday, and Saturday was the same, and Sunday off.
The beauty of youth.
Yeah, and it's like, why did I do that? I was exhausted. However, now I'm still doing the same thing, but I'm not going the heavy weights that I was. I'll take a day off in the middle. I'll take a day off somewhere here.
Yeah.
But I used to say like God, I can't miss the gym today. I got to be somewhere. I got to go to the gym first. Now it's like, okay, I'll skip the gym today.
Right.
And I actually feel better.
And, it actually, I was going to say, it probably works in your favor.
It does work in my favor.
Somebody asked me, how often should you take a break? And I go, well, you could take a break for like a half a week, once every 8 weeks.
Yeah.
But if you just miss a day here and there, you're fine. You don't need to
Fine. You look in the mirror and think everything's dissipating, it's going away, but it's not.
No,
I took 3 days and we went out of town. I didn't do anything. I came back. It was like Monday or Tuesday.
Yeah.
And I went back to the gym. I said, my God, I'm strong today. I took off and I just rested.
Yeah. By the way, I just split my workouts, changed my split from three different workouts to 4 different workouts. So now I do chest and back, shoulders, which includes traps, biceps, triceps, abs, and calves, and then legs. And that a 4-way split works better because it gives you a little bit longer between times you hit that body part again.
Yeah, I see that.
So it ends up being like twice every 10 days.
Well, I had, well, we got a few minutes left. I had torn my quads in 2001, so I was in a wheelchair. Both.
How'd you do that?
Wrestling.
Oh, okay.
I was in the ring. I took a guy over on a arm drag. He landed on me. My heel hit my butt, and my quad snapped. Now I thought I had dislocated my knee, and I told him, I said, grab my leg and yank it. I think it's out of joint.
Oh my God.
And it wasn't. And so
Did you make it worse?
It was already torn.
Yeah.
So I'd stand up, and my leg would go behind me, and I'd fall down. And I was supposed to win anyway, and I can't stand up. So I said, throw me out of the ring and hit me with a base. He had a baseball bat in his corner. He started hitting my leg, and I sold it. And finally got up to one leg and hobbled in, took him over for a pin. I got back to the dressing room, and I had a divot across the top of my knee where my quad wasn't attached.
Yeah, right.
I thought it was a partial tear, so I duct taped it, as we do.
Yeah.
It swelled up, and all the fluid held me together.
Yeah.
I came home for a few days, called the doctor. He said, well, it's a partial tear. You can't do anything. If it's torn, you got to operate. I didn't know any better. I go back to the gym. I'm working one leg, and I come home. It's on Thanksgiving. I walk out that door right there and tripped and fell and ripped my left one.
Oh, because you're putting everything on that leg?
Yeah, I called my son, my wife at the time. He came out. They helped me up. It sounded like a tree breaking, this thing.
Oh, yeah,
Turned all white. I said, oh, my God, I really ripped something. Go to the doctor, and he says, let me see you walk. And I stiff-legged across the room. I sit down. He says, let me see you lift your legs. Well, I couldn't. You're ruptured. You got to put them back together.
Yeah.
So they operated 6 weeks in leg braces. And I'm getting to a point here. And so
both the legs in a brace.
Both legs
at the same time.
At the same time, I had to sit straight leg in the back of a car. I had to help shower with a walker. I had to help me out of the bed to go pee. I mean, this was annoying.
Yeah.
This was really annoying.
Yeah.
So, but they were Velcro, so I could loosen them. So after about a week or two, I thought I had a huge link, and I got down in my car, and I wasn't supposed to go anywhere. And I loosened the brake, and set in the gas, and the breaker working. I took myself to the gym in a walker.
Yeah.
So I go in, and here's the point I'm trying to make. So I went in every day and I worked out. Obviously, I could not work legs.
But you did upper body.
Every day I did upper body something. All of a sudden, in 2 weeks, I'm putting on all this size and it's starting to look really good, just with an everyday routine in upper body.
Yeah.
I don't know why, because I didn't have the rest days.
Yeah.
But maybe I slept more at night because of my legs. I don't know.
And by the way, there is this thing called cross-education.
Yeah.
Which technically means that if you work your left side, it'll cross over to the right side.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a systemic benefit to exercise. In other words, if you do something for the upper body, it benefits the lower body.
Mm-hmm.
So even though you weren't working your legs, indirectly they were getting some benefit from the upper body work.
They were getting.
It was better than if you just stayed home.
Oh, and here's why, you guys. If you ever have an injury, and someone wrote me, they tore their tricep and they had it reattached. I wonder how long it's going to take to rehab. I don't know, because he's different than me. Everybody's different. I'm a doer. I don't let things set me back.
Right.
So I go to the gym and I work. Your mental attitude, if you have an injury and your mental attitude is good and you're training and
right.
you feel good and you go out for coffee after you do your lunch, so your normal routine, even
don't let it all stop you.
Yeah, all of a sudden you feel good. And before you know it, weeks have gone by. And my therapist said, did my physical therapy, God, you're healing fast. I said, because I'm doing.
The power of the mind, I mean, it's your refusal to let this thing stop you.
Exactly. Now I need a knee replacement. I'm putting it off forever. I don't want to go through that again.
Yeah.
But I will. Well, I appreciate you coming over here.
It's always fun to be here.
And where can we reach you? What have you got going?
dbfitness@aol.com is my email, dbfitness@aol.com.
At AOL.
I'm on Facebook. My website is dougbrignole.com. I'm everywhere.
Okay. And life is good.
And life is good. I'm working on my book. I should have it done in hopefully a month. You know, I'm having a lot of fun with this book.
Yeah.
And so I keep having too much fun, and I keep expanding it. But it's going to be great.
Real quick story, since we're going to end. Here's the thing with things, and if you guys write books or if you have a project where you're building something, and I'm this personality type that when it's done, I look at it and say, it's not done. You know what I mean?
You want to keep reinventing it.
Yeah, you got to go a little bit more. It's not done yet. Got to add more. I have a book I wrote when I had my legs in 2001, and then I started adding to it. Now I can add another, it's 12 years to it.
Yeah.
So I got to sit down.
But I do have to say though that waiting has made it better. I haven't sat idly waiting, but the fact that I have taken this long to do it instead of finishing it 6 months ago, guaranteed made it better.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Like anything, you just keep it. You're right. It does make it better. so many things I could write about. Well, thank you guys for watching Rick's Corner. It's always good to have Doug back here. We always get into interesting conversations. If there's anything you want to know, you can email him or email me, rick@rickdrasin.com. I have a new website coming out. It's rickdrasin.com and rickscorner.com, all brand new website. I have new shirts coming out within the next 10 days to 2 weeks. Rick Drasin Originals with the original gold design, Muscle Beach, all the shirts that you guys like. You can buy them on there. Look at wellnessfitnessnutrition.com, and they have all kinds of supplements and nutritional supplements that I recommend highly. They're a good company, and it works for me. And so stay tuned for more. We'll be back at another time.
Thank you.
See you later.
Okay.
It's rickdrasin.com. He is the equalizer, baby. See you next time.